Story 1. Telling my niece she'll have to move out if she's not my nanny anymore. I'm a single mom to 2 kids, 8 and 6. I work as a nurse. 3 days a week, I work 12-hour shifts, 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. After my husband passed, I needed a nanny to tend to my kids from the time they got off school, 3 p.m., onwards. I decided a live-in was the best choice. I have 1 guest bedroom. I live right near a university. Around this time, my niece had just gotten accepted. She wanted to save cost on dorms and offered to watch my kids those 3 days, if she could live there rent-free. I agreed, and said I'd also pay her $22 per hour, a competitive rate for our area. She's done with her classes by 1, so it works out. She fixes them dinner and puts them to bed. Then she's free to do whatever. But of course I pay her from 3 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. It worked for 2 years. My niece never had any complaints. Now, however, my niece is getting an paid internship related to her major that starts in January. She wouldn't be available to watch my kids. I congratulated her and said I could help her look into student housing or an apartment. We'd have 3 months to do this. She was confused. I said since I would need a live-in and only have 1 guest room, she would have to move out. My niece got upset and said this isn't fair, she won't be able to save any money if she gets a dorm or an apartment. She could afford to live on her own, but wouldn't have much savings. I pointed out that this would work best for me as I had to put my kids in aftercare the other 2 days I work. I get off around 5, and the nanny could just pick them up from school versus them having to stay there so long. My niece argued that the nanny could leave at the end of her shift, but after speaking to some nannies, they understandably don't want to drive home so late. Plus, I'm fine with the nanny, and my niece, sleeping after the kids do. So, there's no sense in them sleeping then waking up and driving so drowsy. Even I feel nervous driving home so late, especially after my long shift. My Sil, her mom, feels this is unfair to my niece, but she moved in under the condition that she'd work as a nanny. My Sil and brother live 3 hours away, so niece couldn't commute if she moved back in with them. They feel I should try to find a nanny who'd be willing to drive home at 12:30 a.m. It'd take me a half-hour minimum to get home, but all nannies I've spoken to have said no or expressed concern about their safety driving so late. Edit to answer from FAQ, the internship is all semester long. My niece isn't interested in nannying at all going forward and will instead be pursuing internships. She has no desire to work after her internship is over for the day. She knew from the jump that I was only looking for a live-in specifically for childcare. I have also provided her written notice and am covering Maya legally. Comment 1. NTA She fully knows she moved into a room that was intended for a nanny. As she fulfilled that role for 2 years. It is unfair for her to now demand a change to the arrangement. Especially since this would be at a heavy cost to you. They are also an adult who has been paid a nice hourly rate between 3 p.m. and 12 a.m., without any rent being charged. What were they doing with that money? After 2 years they could have something set aside. Tuition isn't cheap, but holy have they squandered a great opportunity if they can't be ready to move out in 3 months. Comment 2. NTA. The living arrangement was for the nanny, a position that your niece was filling. It was not made for your niece, specifically. If your niece is quitting the nanny job, then that means she is also giving up the accoutrements that came with it. It sounds like she is misremembering or just plain rewriting the terms of the arrangement to suit herself. Regardless, this is a problem that she has created for herself through wrong assumptions and lack of planning. Stand your ground, it's her problem to solve, not your burden to shoulder. Comment 3. NTA Aside from free housing, she was paid an overly fair wage that most would consider livable income, totally depends on area of course. If she did not manage her personal finances properly, it would be difficult to make this transition, but that's not Op's fault. Ultimately, the niece may find herself in a bind but has no right to point the finger at anyone but herself for not creating an emergency fund. It almost comes across as entitlement, because it's her situation that's changing, not OP's. Story 2. not delaying my wedding so my sister-in-law can marry first. It all started on New Year's when I, M28, returned from my GF's, F28, place abroad. My sis-in-law, 22, let's call her Jessica, and my brother fetched me from the airport to reveal that they got engaged and were planning to marry in September. Despite having mixed feelings since Jessica has a history of causing trouble, I congratulated them. The news came coincidentally right when I was preparing to propose to my GF I'd be flying back to shortly after. We had been entertaining the idea of getting married for a while at that point, especially since the 2.5 years of forced separation during COVID had been a nightmare none of us wanted to repeat. Considering our different nationalities, getting married was necessary to get a visa to live together. Essentially all our future plans depended on it. I proposed in late March and we started researching how long everything would take. The answer: long. So our choice was simple: get married soon. Best before September even. Only on paper. No big ceremony/party until we live together. Knowing that Jessica is very emotional, I expected that it would cause stress, so I sat them down, explained the situation, telling them that I really hope they understand. While my brother nodded in approval, Jessica remained silent. That was until she got home and wrote me a huge text about how they, meaning herself, a reoccurring theme, would feel like something was being stolen from them if they weren't marrying first, and that we'd have to delay our plans until after September. I didn't tell my fiancé about this right away to spare her the stress, but I needed to process what happened, so I talked to my mom, who gathered us together in an attempt to settle the dispute. Jessica stormed out of the room crying that day. My brother then nicely asked us to leave, knowing that she'd stay in her room. Fast forward 6 weeks. I had moved on from the incident and was ready to forget, when Jessica wrote me another long text, breaking her silence, calling me rude and mama's lil boy, saying I needed to give her special treatment because of her childhood trauma and that I hurt her, indirectly threatening a long family feud if I wouldn't apologize and delay the wedding. Because it wasn't the first time she pressured me to get what she wanted and I made my point, I didn't reply, trying to talk to my brother instead, which took another week because Jessica wouldn't let him. I then told him that I wasn't going to change my plans, that I found her message absurd and that she most certainly wasn't getting an apology. Over the next 2 months, Jessica would send a text every 1 to 2 weeks, getting more aggressive, blocking me despite me literally saying nothing, then unblocking me again to write more, texting my mom and my fiancé about me. The latter doesn't even have contact with Jessica, sending my bro as messenger to put even more pressure on me. I eventually had enough and blocked her for good. Comment 1. NTA. But I'm confused about the timing. It's currently October. Regardless, just get married already and put this to bed. You're not planning on a big ceremony, essentially just a legal agreement to get the ball rolling with regards to citizenship etc. If you want to keep the peace with your sil and brother, just don't tell anyone. But that's certainly not a requirement. You have every right to get married whenever you want, or almost whenever you want, without criticism. Comment 2. NTA, your only mistake here is telling Jessica about the marriage in the first place. If you are just going to a courthouse with 2 witnesses to get a piece of paper, there's no reason you need to share that information with anyone. And while Jessica's reaction is fucking batshit crazy, it seems to me like you kind of expected it. You could have avoided causing a lot of drama for your brother by just keeping that info to yourself. Comment 3. Obviously NTA, get married when you can, given it's a question of doing a ton of paperwork / getting immigration on board. Realistically, you might even end up getting married after Sil anyway. Do not let Sil's tantrum delay your wedding. 2 governments will do enough of that already. However, I am extremely concerned for your brother. Your Sil is showing early signs of being abusive, controlling who he can speak to, isolating her partner from family, bullying until she gets what she wants etc. I would stop seeing this as a difficult immature girl having a meltdown, and start seeing this as a possible escalation that will affect your brother. Maybe look up how to support someone who is in an emotionally abusive relationship and start focusing on helping your brother, because her behavior is only going to escalate once they are married. Story 3, refusing to let my stepdad pay for my wedding. I, 27F, am engaged to my fiancé Raf. Raf and I are paying for our wedding ourselves. That was always something we planned on doing, and we have saved for a number of years to afford a nice wedding. Ever since my dad died when I was 6, I knew in the future if I got married, his dad, my granddad, would be walking me down the aisle and dancing with me in dad's place. Honestly, I think even if dad was alive I'd have both of them, because granddad and I always had a special relationship. When I played weddings as a kid I used to have both of them walk me down the aisle lol. I was upfront about asking granddad to my mom and stepdad. They didn't take the news great. My stepdad wanted to be the one who performed as father of the bride, and he told me as much. He didn't like that I was giving him and my mom focus as a couple but not him as my dad, and he said this because I arranged for a special dance for the two of them as well as a special toast to the two of them during the wedding. He said after being in my life since I was 7, when I met him, and being my stepdad since I was 9, when he and mom got married officially, he feels he is more deserving of the role. I told him I understood he was upset, but I had made my decision. He said it was childish to keep to a decision I made as a baby and never open myself up to alternatives. When I didn't give in, they got a little huffy and I decided to leave to give them some space. Then my stepdad came to me and said I should let him pay for the wedding. This came out of nowhere honestly, but I knew instantly what he was trying to do. I knew that if I took his money, I wouldn't be able to say no to him. It would be entitled as hell to let him pay but not give him the role he wants and the jobs he wants to do. It also wouldn't have felt right to me anyway because I never went to him for anything. So it would have felt like I was taking advantage, and he's never going to be my dad, he can't buy that from me, so I stuck to my convictions and I said thanks for offering but we're good, we have the money. He went on a long rant about how traditionally, the father of the bride always pays for the wedding and how tradition is important, and he said it was bad luck to pay for your own wedding. I told him we were a more modern couple and had chosen to pay for our own wedding with no financial contributions from anyone. He was angry and he left. Ever since he and my mom have said I disrespected him immensely by denying him the right to pay. Mom brought up how he comes from a very traditional and conservative family and that it is shameful for him not to be paying for everything. She told me he had been looking forward to paying for my special day and I threw his more than generous offer in his face. My stepdad told me I had ruined the whole wedding for him now. Comment 1. This is really simple. NTA. It is your wedding, to be conducted however you see fit within the means you have available to you and with consideration to the other person whose wedding it is. Everyone else, every single other one else, be it sperm donor to late father, oven for your 9 months of growth, neighbor's cat's friend from over the road or school friends, are what we call guests, who attend at your behest. The bar for how bad you have to be the a-hole at your wedding is far higher, other party accepted. Comment 2. Your wedding is about you and your so. Now, I would not actually call you modern, as the whole giving away of the bride is tradition AF, but it is your right to ask whoever you want. However, it might be a bridge you can never uncross. So if you do want your stepdad in your life, as a grandfather to your children, if you choose to have them, or other roles, I might approach him and say, look, the paying of the wedding, and the giving away / first dance, are two hard lines, I will not negotiate. However, you are important to me, so tell me if there is something else that would make you feel important. Story 4, audibly saying bruh. When my sister announced she was pregnant again. Hello. I'm F16, a younger sister to Laurie, 26F. Me and Laurie have never been close since we had different dads. I was an affair baby. She's always resented me for ruining her family, but whatever. Laurie has 6 kids. Yes. 6. Twin boys Beck and Joe, who are 7, planned, a girl Liliana who's 6, unplanned, another girl, Angel who's 5, planned, another boy, Keith who's 2, planned, and another baby boy Carl who's 9 months not planned. Despite the fact that Laurie is incapable of taking care of these kids, 4 of them were actually planned. Because she knows my pushover mom will give her money and watch the kids. My mom even quit her job to do so, even turning her workroom into a nursery for Carl. We're pretty well off, but we can't do this forever. I try not to judge, and just ignore Laurie like she does me. Even though when my mom is busy doing something like changing a diaper, I have to step in and help. Especially with the twins, since they're very rough with each other. Tonight at dinner, Laurie's boyfriend joined, a father to just Carl, as well as Laurie's father. This wasn't abnormal, so I didn't think anything of it, until my sister said she had some exciting news. I wished she'd say something else. But I knew what she was going to say. "I'm pregnant," she would say. Everyone went dead silent until I said, "Bruh." I didn't mean to say it out loud, but come on. Laurie gave me a death stare, and said if I wanted to say something I should just say it. So I did. "Laurie, this is your..." I take a moment to count, "sixth child. You know we can't keep supporting you. Without Mom you'd be on the streets, and you know that. Look at Mom, she's so tired. She's always taking care of your kids, and so am I. I'd bet I've changed more diapers than you have, you selfish bitch." She began to cry. And ran out into her boyfriend's car. He followed her and drove. My mother then began to cry. She left to go out Carl back to bed since he woke up. It was just me and Laurie's father. He began to yell and told me I was a brat and Laurie was a great mother, then he stormed off. As I'm sitting here in the morning watching the boys, I'm thinking, was I too obnoxious? My mom says that a lot. I don't mean to be because of my autism, but come on. Please give me some feedback. Comment 1. NTA. If it were me, I completely stop helping watch kids, but I can't stand when people pawn their kids off on family members. It really pisses me off since it happened to me as a kid. My parents decided to have more kids when I was 10, 14 and then again when I was 17. Guess when I moved out? At 17. Comment 2. NTA et al. In my very own opinion, I think 6 children is fucking ludicrous and painfully unnecessary given the world is already quite overpopulated. Also, your sister doesn't even appear to have custody of all these children. Why was Carl at your house and his mother and father both took off so easily? They don't seem like the best parents, even if it was socially acceptable to have so many cattle. Comment 3. They left you with the kids the morning after? I mean, I think that kinda proves your point here. Where TF was your sister? You are a little bit TA for how / when you said it, but you're also a teenager and your sister is supposed to be an adult with a fully developed brain. So I'm a rule NTA. It absolutely wasn't your place to say anything, but clearly no one else in your family was going to. You definitely need to save up and move out. Those kids are not your problem.